Hey there, it's Joe Schad, beat writer for the Miami Dolphins and the Palm Beach Post. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for a special edition of PB Post Live. This is Inside Florida Sports, part of the USA Today Florida Sports Network. I'll be joined shortly by my colleague Habib as we get ready to kick off. There's Hal. As we get ready to kick off another exciting Miami Dolphins season, expectations are high. Welcome, Hal.
Welcome to another season. How long have we been waiting for football, Joe?
Yeah, the preseason games don't count. We need to go ahead and shorten those preseason games up. We're all looking forward to the Chiefs and the Ravens. That should be exciting, plus that Brazil game. And then, of course, the Dolphins opener on Sunday, 1 o'clock at Hard Rock Stadium. The Palm Beach Post will have you covered from every angle. And this should be an exciting season, Hal. The Dolphins have 11 Pro Bowlers on their roster. The Dolphins have 8 players that were ranked in the top 100 by the NFL players' peers. So certainly expectations are high. Hal, I can reveal that on the Palm Beach Post website, you'll see I predicted the Dolphins with a record of 10-7 and 1 playoff win and 1 playoff loss. Of course, that would be their first playoff win in 24 years. When I was 5, Hal, I'm just kidding. How old were you, 25?
I was about 50 back then, yeah.
Well, what is your official Palm Beach Post, Gannett, USA Today, Florida Sports Network, Inside Florida Sports, Palm Beach Post Live prediction for the Miami Dolphins 2024 season? Did you also pick 10-7 or?
No. I can't believe I'm saying this, but one of us is more optimistic than the other.
For the first time in your life.
And that's me. I picked to win 11.
Okay.
I don't know. Something came over me. Maybe it was that extra cup of coffee or something. But I picked them to win 11 and to go 1-1 in the playoffs as well, which would be semi-groundbreaking. It would be a step forward. I wonder how many fans, if given that parameter, would take it. I suspect more than half would not, even though it would break the drought. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think a playoff win would mark a successful season. Mike McDaniel 0-2 in the playoffs. Adam Gase 0-1. I've been back to cover 3 years of Adam Gase, 3 years of Brian Flores, and now, of course, 2 years of Mike McDaniel. So, it's sort of like one step at a time. Dolphins owner Stephen Ross comes out and says that if healthy, which is always the caveat, that Ross believes the Dolphins are Super Bowl contenders. And, yeah, sure. I mean, there's like 12, 14 teams that could legitimately enter the season believing they have a chance to compete for a Super Bowl. But I didn't think that Ross's comments were particularly helpful. The print media folks like us haven't actually spoken to Mr. Ross in many years. These comments were made on the local television broadcast. I believe CBS is the Dolphins broadcast partner. So, what did you make of those comments? And are the Dolphins Super Bowl contenders? We did our first 2024 Miami Dolphins mailbag on the Palm Beach Post Sports website. And I think we're joined by subscribers here, but if you happen to sneak in and you're not a subscriber, it's $9.99 for a year. So support us, support digital journalism, support our ability to continue to cover the Miami Dolphins for you. But Super Bowl contention, are you okay with this proclamation from the owner, or is that actually unhelpful?
Well, I mean, he is the owner. He can say anything he wants. I would say, number one, I'm grateful to hear from him in general because, like you said, we haven't heard from him in ages. I'm not going to come down on him too much if he doesn't want to speak to us. That he can certainly not speak to us. But
he's a Palm Beach tycoon, and we appreciate his advertising with the Palm Beach Post.
Yeah, I think it's just nice to get an idea.
Real estate tycoon.
Well, yeah, that's true.
And he wants to have the success that he's having in real estate on the football field. Every time we do talk to him, that's what he tells us.
Yeah, and I remember a conversation I had with him. This goes way, way back to when he was getting his feet wet still and he admitted that getting ahead in the NFL is unlike anything he's ever faced in the business world. And the obvious difference is in the business world, he hires who he wants. You know, he got down here, but the Dolphins wanted Tom Garfinkel. He hired Tom Garfinkel. But on the player side, you can't just do that. It's not automatic. And that's the thing that he's navigating, as well as trying to hire the right people for, GM and obviously head coach.
All right, so we wanted to engage with our readers. We really appreciate those of you who read our stories about the Dolphins on the Palm Beach Post. We put a lot of work into it, and we really enjoy our jobs. And I'm certainly happy to be back for a 9th consecutive season, 11th season in total covering the Miami Dolphins. Hal has remarkably covered the Dolphins for 47 years. I think that's going to send you a trophy in the mail for that. Here's I'm going to go through a couple of the questions that Hal and I have received. The first one, will Tua play every game? Now, obviously, we do not have a crystal ball. We do know that Tua is in excellent physical condition. He's shed a few pounds. He has continued to strengthen the hip that he tragically injured just a few years ago. He has, of course, learned the modern art of jiu-jitsu, all of the jiu-jitsu moves. Hal and Tua, both jiu-jitsu experts. So he's obviously done everything he can to limit the chance of injury. But we have to be honest here. Tua does have an injury history, various body parts, and, of course, the concussion concern. But, let's just say this, Hal. Let's say I was a Vegas odds maker and I was setting the over-under on starts for Tua Tagovailoa. Now, this might be a little bit morbid, but it's part of our job. We have to address these uncomfortable subjects.
We have to be morbid.
And so you have the 17-game regular schedule, which is very odd, and I don't like it. It'll be 18 as soon as next year. But if I were to set the over-under at 14, would you go over under? And do you think Tua and the Dolphins would sign up now for 14 games started by their quarterback in the regular season?
I'll answer the second part first. No, okay. I don't think they would just dive in with 14 and be satisfied. Do I think he'll go over under? I guess I'm feeling generous and I'll say over just based on.
Yeah, you picked all those wins.
Well, I mean, he made it through 17 last year. There wasn't really a hint of him missing any games. Maybe the odds are tilted in his favor now. He had such bad luck up until that point last year. Maybe now he's going to have a run of good luck. But, I also hesitate to get too far into this because, Joe, look, the AFC, was just wrecked last year by quarterbacks getting hurt. And so it's a rough position to play, and that's why they make so much money. And, I hope for the fans' sake that we have a lot better year in terms of quarterback health because nobody is paying big bucks to see a third-string quarterback back there.
Skylar Thompson has got some moxie. He's got just the Dolphins' backup quarterback. He's got some swagger, some athleticism, some arm strength. It would be interesting if he was in there. A little bit of Matt Moore, for those of you who remember Matt Moore, the gunslinger, Pied Piper type, as the former Dolphins offensive coordinator Clyde Christensen used to say. Where if you're watching, Clyde, we hope you're doing well.
We love Clyde.
But, you can't say that Skylar Thompson is one of the top, 16 backup quarterbacks in the NFL. There's a lot of more veteran backup quarterbacks who are making a lot more money. So it is interesting that the Dolphins, got rid of Mike White and moved forward with a less experienced player. Will we ever see Odell Beckham? Odell, do you have the Instagram, Hal? Do you have that? Odell posted a video where he was showing off his leg and knee strength, lifting heavy things, and Tua Tagovailoa was cheering him on, and then they did a special handshake. You and I have a special handshake. It's very similar to the Tua OBJ handshake. Very similar. But Chris Greer, the general manager of the Dolphins, said OBJ was close, and that it was the Dolphins' decision to hold him out of the first 4 games, that they were keeping a long-term vision on. Hey, Big E has joined us. Thanks so much, Big E. We appreciate it.
Big E?
Yeah, the
This
Big
is
E.
big time.
The Big E, one of the biggest fans
Capital
out there.
E.
Spread the word, Big E. Send the link out so more people can join us. What was I talking about? I was talking about OBJ. I do think we will see him in a limited fashion in games 5 through 8, and then perhaps he'll ramp things up just a little bit. But I personally don't expect like huge numbers at this point in his career for Odell Beckham Jr. I think he's a complimentary player. I wouldn't even say that he will end up having more targets than, say, tight end Jonnu Smith. What do you think, Hal? Will we ever see Odell Beckham Jr.?
I think we'll see him. It's a matter of how will we see him. They signed him to be, we thought, WR3. And, then again, Chris Greer said that they knew that there might be some kind of issues along the way with his health. There is part of me, I have to say, that I think that when you dive into the free agent market, you're going to get some guys who, let's face it, they're free agents for a reason. Their former team chose not to bring them back for some reason. Maybe they couldn't fit them under the cap, or maybe it's something that's more of a football decision rather than a business decision. But I do wonder sometimes if the Dolphins tend to brush over injury situations in the free agent market a little bit more than they should. I'm just saying.
I mean, the Dolphins have the oldest roster in
Right.
the NFL. That's obviously a concern. For a number of years, GM Chris Greer declined to sign anyone 30 or older, and that obviously has changed. So this is a win now window. I saw you standing next to the very tall Calais Campbell earlier today. And for those who don't know, Hal is not very tall. Hal, did he hear you? Did he hear your question?
I'm sure Calais was very intimidated by my stature. I had to put him at ease.
Okay.
Calais, he's like, what is he, about 5 feet taller than me? Something like that. Anyway.
I mean, he's like 6'6", bats down passes.
I think it's 6'8". He's the tallest guy on the team.
Oh, okay.
And I'm the shortest guy in the media.
You are. So let's answer Big E's question. He wants to know about the offensive line. Everybody always, whenever I ask the fans on social media, Schad Joe on X, a little poll, what do you want to talk about? What are you worried about? It's always offensive line. Nobody wants to really read stories about offensive line, but everyone wants to talk about the offensive line. So Big E's question, one of the biggest Dolphin fans out there, is the organization doesn't worry much about the offensive line, but are you guys concerned? Well, yeah, of course I'm concerned. I talked to Aaron Brewer today, the Dolphins starting center. He does say he plans to start on Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He joked that he wishes he had a robotic hand. He did have a surgically repaired broken hand, but he says it's going to be fine to snap. I told him that I'm sure there's a Dolphins fan out there that would donate their hand to him if it would help him snap. He liked that. Aaron Brewer, by the way, like Ayrin, Aaron Brewer. That's how he would like to pronounce it. He asked me to spread the word. The question is, are you guys concerned? Well, yeah, not about the tackles. Although, of course, we hope Teron Armstead can have the healthiest year of his career, but about the interior of the offensive line. If Brewer starts at center, certainly you go Rob Jones at left guard, and then Liam Eichenberg or Lester Cotton at right guard. 1 to 10, Hal, I'm going to say that I'm a 7 in concern on the interior. What about you?
I might even be an 8.
An 8. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we haven't seen these guys as a group so far. They haven't been able to line up together. So that's one issue. I keep thinking back in terms of, are you guys concerned? And the classic quote that Chris Greer himself kind of resurrected last week when we talked to him, when he said, I think you guys are concerned more concerned than we are about the offensive line. And you guys being the media contingent. Well, yeah, we are. And maybe sometimes when you're on the outside looking in, maybe you can see some things pretty clearly. And this is one, hey, let's face it. Joe, I started following this team when I was a little brat. And unfortunately for the Dolphins, back then, it was the finest offensive line this organization's ever had.
They're all in the Hall of Fame. You always write stories about
everything
that, Hal.
since then has kind of maybe not gone like that downhill, but
the Marino line was good with Richmond Webb and those guys.
Yeah, Webb and Sims.
Keith Sims, yeah.
Those guys were good, and they protected Dan the way he needed to be because he was the franchise. But for so long, this team has been patching together an offensive line. I remember one year when they actually, for the first time in their history, did not draft any offensive linemen. This was probably just before you came back, Joe. And, since then, have they drafted any guards who play guard? Have they drafted a top-notch center, which they could have drafted the center of Kansas City, but they bypassed that, So, yeah.
Creed Humphrey, that's the guy's name.
Humphrey, I was trying to think.
They don't like it when we tell. You might get a memo. They don't like it when you talk about the guys they passed on.
Yeah, Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma. And that actually ties in. I got a question on Twitter about biggest weakness, and I was going to say twofold. One, offensive line. And two, I'm concerned about the defensive line because
run defense, yeah, of course.
Yeah, because Christian Wilkins is gone. I do like Benito Jones, but we got to see Benito Jones. So let's see what he can do. Calais Campbell, I think, might well have more left in the tank than people might assume at his age. The Dolphins have to hope so. And we all like Zach Sealer. I think we all respect what he can do. But he can't be a line unto himself.
Not going to be easy to replace Christian Wilkins. I think that we all are a little guilty in the media corps of not discussing enough the impact that the losses of players like Christian Wilkins and Robert Hunt will have on this year's team, not to mention Andrew Van Ginkel, although they drafted a few players that should help fill that void. JC Dolphin wants to know about Guardian caps the Dolphins players, as far as we know, are not planning on wearing the Guardian caps in the regular season. There's only a few NFL players that have chosen to do that. I saw something interesting, how the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, recently said that the latest models of helmets that they are offering players have scored as safe as an older model with a Guardian cap on top of it. So Goodell is confident in the helmets, the latest model. He thinks that they're going to improve the safety. And, of course, we'll see if the changes to the kickoff rules improve the safety. Let me ask you about the kickoff rules, Hal, while we're on this. We're going to see starting tonight with the Chiefs and the Ravens. I think they're just going to boot the ball through the end zone, allow the opposing team to take it out to the 30. Dolphins special teams coach Danny Crossman very interestingly said that more than 40% of preseason kickoffs were returned beyond the 30. So why not just kick it through the end zone? Do you think that the kickoff change is actually going to be a little disappointing? I do.
Yeah, I do. I thought, especially after the early returns, that it was maybe a lot, much ado about little. I won't say nothing. But people are going to experiment. They're going to try different things. We thought at the start of this that maybe the speed factor would be huge for Miami. We all know how many, track stars they have on the team. And then it started shifting a little bit toward bigger guys. I think there's going to be a lot of experimenting going on. It'll be interesting to see what the results are. But I'm hoping that by week 3 or 4, the novelty hasn't worn off and it becomes sort of, okay, they just kicked off.
Well, I don't think we're going to see
Yeah.
And I don't think the Dolphins are going to put Tyreek Hill back there. I don't think that's
I don't
happening.
think so
Probably,
either.
probably not Jalen Waddle either.
No, Joe, let me jump back real quick to the Guardian Cap thing. I did ask several players. This goes back a few weeks ago, and I didn't get anybody who said, "Yeah, I'm going to wear one." The semi-concerning remark I got from one player was that he didn't find them aesthetically pleasing.
But they're heavy too.
They, I guess, but aesthetic should be the last thing that you're concerned about. So I'll just say that.
Yeah, is that the last thing that you are worried about, Hal? Aesthetics?
Yeah, always. What am I wearing? What am I going to say?
There's not a grease stain on that shirt, is there?
No, I don't
All
think
right,
so.
just wanted to make sure.
Someone else was asking. Rich is asking best guess on Jonnu Smith's stat contributions this year. I don't know about you, Joe, but I am pretty high on Jonnu. I think that the Dolphins, I believe, have just been kind of dipping their toe in the water on what they can do, the many things they could do with him and his skill set. And I can see them getting him the ball in all kinds of different ways, where the fact that they have those two guys on the outside is going to be so concerning to defenses that Jonnu can do not whatever he wants, but he can make things happen in ways that wouldn't normally happen if it weren't for Tyreek and Jalen on the outside.
I think there'll be some interesting Jonnu Smith moments this season, some interesting plays and play packages, as they say. But whenever Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are on the field, I think they're going to get the ball 70% of the time. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just one guy or the other on the field. They're not always on the field at the same time. You'll notice that. And then, the Dolphins, I still believe, are going to try to establish a power run game more this season than ever. They made a huge jump in rush attempts and yards per carry last year. And I think Mike McDaniel is going to try to establish that even further this year. So I do think that Jonnu will have at least one touchdown, which will exceed the total of Dolphins tight end touchdowns from last season. They had no touchdowns in total. So if you drafted a Dolphins tight end in your fantasy league last year, that was not a good move. Did not work out well. I do think that Jalen Wright is an under the radar fantasy pick as your one of your later picks. I think that at some point he's going to be in there for a banged up Raheem Mostert and or Devon Achane, and he's the real deal. He is going to be very, very good, and certainly that I think will end up being a steal as a fourth round pick. How I did pick the Dolphins over the Jaguars in the season opener. I picked them to win by 5 points, 26-21, I believe. And don't ask me how I got to 26. I think there was a safety in there. But did you pick the Dolphins to cover? The spread is 3 or 3.5 at the moment.
Yeah, I went with, I believe it was 24-20.
Okay, so we both believe that the Dolphins are going to win. If Hard Rock would like to sponsor this particular segment, we'll gladly do another. So Hard Rock, if you're watching, let us know. So, yeah, we're looking forward to Sunday. Of course, it's hard for us as journalists, Hal, to cover 2 games in 5 days. That can be tiring.
Joe, you got to know by now in the NFL, it's 1 game at a time. You can't be looking at who is they play next Thursday? Oh yeah, that other team from Western New York.
Both teams have a Josh Allen, by the way. Josh Allen, the Jaguars standout pass rusher, and of course the big tall guy from Wyoming.
Both good players.
On the other ball club. Did you know that Demetrius Harvey and the legendary Eugene Gene Fournette are going to be driving down from Jacksonville to cover this game for Jacksonville.com?
I just learned something.
They're part of the Gannett family, of course, the USA Today Florida Sports Network family, we're all one team now, and so we're going to help each other out on Sunday. Do you think that Gene Fournette will help you out if you have a Jaguars question?
I'm sure he will.
Listen, I am glad that the season is here. JC Dolphin says he lives in Jacksonville. I've driven to Jacksonville for a preseason game. I recently drove to Tampa for a preseason game. Hal, how did you avoid that drive?
I probably bribed you into going to Jacksonville or something. I don't know. The last time I drove to Jacksonville, I swore I would be flying if I ever had to go back to Jacksonville. So,
No doubt.
That's
Well, listen, we're going to do more of these chats moving forward. We want to connect with the fans and really reward those of you who subscribe. If you snuck in and you're not a subscriber, it's $9.99 for a year. Go to Google, type in Palm Beach Post digital subscription. It helps us out, and you can watch a similar conversation with the aforementioned Demetrius Harvey and Gene Fournette on YouTube. You can go to the Palm Beach Post sports website, the Dolphins page, the Jacksonville.com Jaguars page, and so you can see who did a better job. Hal, what do you think? Do you think we did better than Jacksonville?
Oh, yeah, by like 24-20, I would say.
How's your dog doing? I want to let you know my dog Tucker is doing great. How's your dog doing?
Bo is crazy as ever. He's a 4-month-old puppy. Crazy as ever.
We have puppies. You'll be surprised to learn that a lot of Dolphins players have cats. Hal, I think you should write a story about this. This would actually get like 1 million views, and Gannett would be so happy. If you wrote about, here's the surprising animal that many Dolphins football players have, and then you see it would be a cat, and then everybody would be shocked, and it would trend on Twitter or X.
Do any of them have a Jaguar?
Would you do this? Will you execute my idea about the cat?
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. Maybe.
Were you going to say one thing in closing?
Well, I was going to say Shelby is on Veterans Vet
Rest Day.
Yeah, okay. She did something with her leg, and it's kind of a concern.
I'm sorry to hear that. We hope that Jalen Ramsey gets better, because he certainly might miss Sunday's ball game because of a hamstring. And then I want you to read a story on the Palm Beach Post website about undrafted second-year player Ethan Bonner from Stanford, who might very well step in as a starter. Certainly changes the complexion of the game if Jalen Ramsey, the former Jaguar, is not available to play on Sunday. But we will monitor that for you. Hal Habib, our Hal Habib, will be at Dolphins camp in Miami Gardens on Friday, and he will bring you the latest on whether or not star corner Jalen Ramsey is ruled out. We really appreciate you joining us for this latest edition of PB Post Live, a special edition on the Inside Florida Sports Network. We appreciate the support of Gannett and the USA Today Florida Sports Network. It's good. There's a lot of papers in the state of Florida. We're all trying to work together. And how sometimes they even put your story in the Naples paper. Did you know that?
Hey,
Naples, Tallahassee, Sarasota. You've been featured in newspapers all across the state.
I remember when the Dolphins owned Florida, and then the Buccaneers came along and had a run, and Jaguars have had their fun. But what do you think? I think this is still a Dolphin state overall. What do you think?
It is. There's a gentleman named Tim up in the Jacksonville area who's always trying to tell us that Lawrence is better than Tua and the Jaguars are better than the Dolphins, but they're not. They're not. And I would agree. I would argue that this video meetup has been a great success and certainly better than anything Jacksonville did. Everything about South Florida is better than Jacksonville. I mean, come on.
Yeah. There you go.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next time. Look for us on Palm Beach Post Sports website, PB Post Live, and hopefully Sunday's game is interesting. I'm sure it will be.